Whose responsibility is it to market what we do, or to let the world know that we are with the patient, and with our help and the care we give, we nurse our patient to health? Whose responsibility is it? It is your responsibility as well as mine. We all need to put our hands on deck to make sure we nurture nursing to where it belongs. So my first question for our discussion today will be straightforward to the President. President, we were here, we were elected, and all of a sudden we heard something called COVID-19. I saw that as a challenge to your administration. But you didn't back off. You did what any other person could do.
Unity.
Yes, friend.
Unity.
Yes, friend.
Yes, it's always a privilege and a pleasure to be amongst ourselves as colleagues. And I'm happy to be here with you, Central Region. Yesterday, your counterparts in Greater Accra also launched their 2020 IND, and it was also a grand occasion. So I'm happy to be here. And let me say a very good morning to all of you. The question you have asked is an interesting one. You know, 2020 was designated by the World Health Organization as the year of the nurse and midwife, in recognition of the 200 years of modern nursing, and that is in recognition of Florence Nightingale. But you ask yourself, in the many years that we have been nurses and midwives, and we've been nursing the world, what has the impact been? If you ask of COVID, I'll say that then COVID was what has even opened the eyes of many people to see what we do as nurses and midwives, because the understanding of the public is sometimes very distorted. But within the COVID period, one thing I realized was that although the nation was trying to put itself together and address COVID, nurses and midwives were somehow left behind. But I will say this, we were in the UK for the Commonwealth Nurses and Midwives Federation when I had a call from the technical director, Ministry of Health, that I needed to be added to the National COVID-19 Technical Committee. And I said, no problem. We are out of the country, but as soon as we get back, I will let you know I'm back. So all they did was take my telephone number and add me to the platform, the WhatsApp platform. But having come back, I realized that even information was not too forthcoming on that platform. And questions that were burning inside me for answers were not being provided. So I just took opportunity of the media briefings that the Minister of Information was periodically running. And it was during those meetings or that platform where the technical committee was expected to participate that I would ask the relevant questions and make my contributions. Gradually, I came to understand the structure, the national structure that was trying to fight the COVID. And then I asked, what is our representation here? What's our representation there? Because sometimes it's as if nurses, despite our numbers and despite what we do and contribute to the health care system, we are sometimes forgotten that we have something to give. So we have now come to a point having even had His Excellency, the Vice President, to come in, we as a joint health sector unit, including GRNMA, were given representation on some of these committees to make impact. But the bottom line is, you see, we do so much, but little is ahead of us. And it's about time we tell our own stories. You don't need a very big platform to do that. It should start from wherever you find yourself. Wherever you find yourself. And it's interesting to know that when it comes to nursing and midwifery, we are not measured by education, by research, or by management and administration. We are measured by the care we give. So the clinical care is what speaks volume about us. If you ask us as a union what we did during the COVID, I think you were all following what was happening. We had to make a lot of noise in terms of during the lockdown, what we needed. Even when the pandemic started elsewhere and it hadn't even gotten to Ghana, we saw it coming. And therefore we issued a communique and said, hey, it's about time we ignite all the structures that need be. What we did in terms of Ebola, it's about time that we pick it up and then do what we need to do. Besides that, during the lockdown, as I said, we needed to ensure that our nurses were safe in terms of transporting themselves to work. In terms of the PPEs, we had to advocate. We had to talk a lot to get us what we needed. But on our own as a union, we made available some hand sanitizers that we shared in all the regions. We gave it to the regional secretariat, and I know they distributed it to all the facilities. You mentioned a few of what we did in terms of the launch of the IND. Of course, we realized that we could not wait for, COVID wasn't going to go anywhere soon. And we needed to do what we had to do. And just like you are doing now, in spite of the COVID, you are also launching your IND, isn't it? So, in memory of Ruth Ama Ishen, a community health nurse who was murdered somewhere in Kumasi, and the fact that she left behind very little children, we instituted a Ruth Ama Ishen Educational Fund in memory of her to raise funds to cater for her kids and also to help other nurses and midwives who may find themselves in such a situation. But we say, God forbid anything like that ever happening to any other nurse or midwife. But you help me come. Maybe when we get to the questions and answers, some of the issues that you don't understand may come up, and we'll see how it goes. But I would love to hear from you. I don't have to blow my own horn or the horn of the national executives or the council. Tell us what we have done right, what you think we are not doing right, what you think we can do better, and then we'll pick it up from there.
And to your question, I would just want us to cast our minds back to where we started from. Because many years ago, I know that the training of nurses and midwives even started in the hospitals with no curricula. So nurses were more of learning through apprenticeship. We did not even have nurses in academia who could train the up-and-coming nurses. Over the years, we've seen that things have changed. In terms of our curriculum, it has changed. It's become more comprehensive. Nurses have moved from being given certificates because we had the QRNs, we had the enrolled nurses. We moved on to, we had the SRN that was also still at the certificate level. Currently, we have nursing at the diploma level, which we are pushing that eventually that would also come up. to a certain level. As I'll continue, I'll talk about it. And now we have programs, undergraduate programs for nursing in Ghana. We have master's programs for nurses in Ghana. And the undergraduates, we have same for midwives. And also we have Legon has started a PhD program for nurses. So you can see that whereas in other countries, they had gone ahead of us in terms of nursing education, it has taken us some time, but we are gradually getting there. Presently, we have quite a number of nurses who are degree holders. We have quite a number of nurses who have masters and who are pursuing, and others who are pursuing master's program. We have nurses who hold PhD. Okay, so in terms of academia, I think that, or education, I think that with time we are improving. And the only thing that maybe I would add, and I'm sure maybe as we go on we may discuss that, is a question that I keep thinking about and reflecting on, that with all these improvements in education, is it reflecting in the care that we give? Because we can have several nurses with PhD, nurses who are professors, everybody can become a master's holder, but if it doesn't translate into the care, because just like the president said, what people would measure us for is the care we provide. And I'm not belittling anything else. Like, I'm not belittling nursing administration, I'm not belittling academia or nursing education or anything for that matter. But for the general public, what they want to see is how this higher education translates into the care that we provide. So in terms of education, I think that we have made some progress. And there's also more room for improvement, because in many countries, entry level into nursing is a degree. And I'm sure that maybe with time we'll get to that point also. So I think that we've made some progress and some achievements.
That as much as we have successes, we also have challenges. And the challenges is what is impeding or is distorting the image of nursing out there. And it is my duty and your duty to correct those images that have been created in the minds of people there. A lot of challenges, I must say, both from our training, both from the clinical setting and administration. Why am I saying so? Now you get people coming into the profession because whether you like it or not, when you complete and it takes you 100 years, you still have a job to do. So people are being pushed into the classroom to come and be trained as nurses. When they come, as much as possible, we want to transform them through our professional adjustments to make them and mold them to become people that will render care to the public. But because of the attitude, because of the training they have right from home, it becomes difficult. You will try, but whatever be the case, it will surface at the point in time. And those things they exhibit at the clinical setting. And so it becomes a challenge to be able to meet the needs of the client or our consumers. Again, we tend to forget that the clients are our consumers and they are evaluators of our activity. We tend to forget that. But every business-minded person, you are supposed to take the user of your service or your facility as somebody you cherish, which we forgo at times. And so that one also puts up a negative attitude, or people describe us by that attitude. Some of us also tend not to utilize the therapeutic communication that we have been taught. So we'll get the theory, then when it comes to the practicals, it becomes an issue. Many people don't have listening ears. Listening ears we don't have. And so even the use of the nursing process becomes a problem. Because the first phase is assessment. And assessment, you need to elicit response or ask questions from the client. And if the client is talking and you are in a hurry, to come to conclusion, then it means that you don't have listening ears. And so you will not be able to use effectively your therapeutic communication to render service to your client. And that also poses a problem to the profession. Again, instead of us to have transformation care, or we say transformational relationship, we should see the patient as a human being and relate to the person as such. But we see patients and we look at them in quote of their conditions that they come with. And mind you, if you tend to be a patient like they are, you may have behaved worse than they are doing. But we tend to forget that. Because at that time, where you are standing, you are giving or you are providing the service, and they are at the recipient end. So if the person comes and they say, I'm having headache, you don't understand why the person should have headache. And this also boils down to the point that the theories that we learn, because the transcultural model will let you understand why people behave the way they behave, because their cultural background is influencing the way they behave. So what will be painful to you will not be painful to another person. But if the person is saying it, because we have subjective data and we have objective data, and what the person is saying is subjective, you need to take it like that. But at times, we don't do that. And that also brings a negative impact onto the profession. There are a lot, as we go along.
That's key. Can you think, does it have any influence with regards to what you just said?
Thank you very much. It has a lot, and it tells a lot. And that is what politics and policy takes us. And you are there to work with them. And so you cannot just turn them back. So you end up trying to satisfy them, but at the end of the day, you cause harm to the profession. That is exactly what is happening. Because you will see that this person didn't do well or doesn't have what it takes, but because of the angle or where the person is coming from, you can't do anything. Your hands are tied. And if you don't do it, you'll be labeled by the political affiliation. And so for you to avoid that, you tend to toe their line, and then at times it brings problems to us. And so let me be quick to say and give a recommendation that it will be very appropriate that in the selection of students or candidates to be trained, it should be the mandate of the people that matter and not about politics. And you cannot do anything about it because we are in the system together. And so it is a big something we need to battle with. And I know gradually we will get there. Maybe when the nurses like our president have gotten to that domain, maybe with little education and all that, and other nurses come on board, maybe we'll be able to educate our politicians so that they'll be able to reason with us, so that we'll have the caliber of people that needs to be there in the profession, so that they will not drag the name of the profession into their mouth.
Thank you very much.
I think we do have challenges. If we want the practice to change, if we want to see nurses give better care, if we want to see our consumers, our clients happy with the care we provide, I think it starts from the training that we receive. And the training is not only from the classroom, because we would have students in the classroom being trained, but the way nursing is a practice profession. So we only don't train the students in the classroom. They would have to go to the ward to experience what we are teaching them theoretically. So there are also people on the ward who partner with us to train the students. In going to the clinical area, they want to see or experience physically or practically some of the things that they've been told in the classroom and what they have seen. One challenge I would start with is the number of students that we have. if you have high numbers, and over the years, the facilities for training them hasn't changed. So your skills lab may be the same as how it was when you started. And probably you started looking at 20 to 50 students. And now you have 200 students. But the clinical skills lab is still the same. Infrastructure is still the same. It means that you may compromise on even the teaching or the training in the school. Students to tutor ratio can also be a problem. So if you don't have enough tutors who would teach them the skills for the students to do a return demonstration to actually get it before they go to the clinical area, then that is a problem. There's a deficiency there. When you send your students to the clinical area, practically, we are gradually faced with this challenge where students go to some facilities and you find that the number of students there are even more than the patients. I have had situations where I followed up on my students and I go to the ward and the students outnumber the number of patients who are there. So how can they even learn and get the skills that they need? Then, just like Sister said, the kind of people we are admitting into the profession, and I don't think it's only nursing. I think it's a societal or generational issue, and we have to think about how we can handle it. Some of them are just people who have been pushed into the profession, so they don't have the heart and the passion for it. It becomes our responsibilities as educators to socialize them, to appreciate what nurses do, so that when they go out, they can behave as nurses. So we have lay people who we are trying to socialize to become nurses. But when the people outnumber the tutors, they outnumber the people who are supporting in the clinical area, it becomes a challenge. So these are some of the things, and she's talking about even the entry level. You may have students who have done really well, but for some reasons you can't admit them into the school. So if we want to really fight this from the area of academia, we should begin to look at infrastructure, not only for the schools, but for the facilities. Students go to the ward, and most of the times they are tempted to improvise because what you have told them is not there. The clinician who is on the ward wants to help the students, but she doesn't have the equipment or what she needs even to demonstrate things to the students, so it becomes a challenge. I can have or talk about other challenges, but I think that I would stop here.
Thank you very much. Understand, or those in the help of affairs, those who formulate our policies, understand that our training should commensurate with the gap that we have. And how can we do that?
Thank you. I think that policy is there, where every school, recently, I don't know whether it's for the last admission, we had a document indicating the number of midwives, the number of general nurses, the number of psychiatric nurses that we need to train. Okay, so I think it's sent school by school. So for my school, we had that. But the truth is that it is difficult to go by that. There is also that notion that we are not only training them to fit or to service the markets that we have here. Okay. As to whether that is right or not is another thing that we can think about. But if we look at the number of people who are leaving the high schools, especially for the university, what the government can do is that if you train this number of people, or we are giving you a quota of 200, it's just an example. These are the people that we can absorb when they finish school and find employment for them. If the institution decides to take 300 people, it means that at the end of the day, the government will just take the 200 that they agreed to take. I haven't seen anything that says that don't train more than we have asked you to train. But what we can take, what we can employ, looking at our capacity, is this number. So the market is there. If there are private institutions who can take on some of these students, fair enough. Some of them may also want to go and work elsewhere, probably not even in the country. That opportunity is there. I think Sister can talk for the Ministry of Health training institutions, but for our institution, the university, this is how it works. But the problem is that it's not about the number, it's about the capacity we have, the infrastructure, the training sites that the students will go to work. If we don't measure or map the training sites with the institutions, then that is where we would have a problem.
So I share in all the issues that you have already mentioned. But in addition to that, there are challenges, okay? I think that we are looking at nursing the world to health, right? The challenges in there are also quite broad. Because like I said earlier, as nurses and midwives, no matter where we are first and foremost measured by the care that we give. When you look at the clinical side, you realize that the issue about staffing is a problem. Are we having the adequate nurse-patient ratios to be able to offer our best in terms of the care that we give? It's interesting that sometimes when you meet nurses and you ask them, oh, which facility are you coming from? Then they will mention it. What is the bed capacity of your hospital? Then they will go like, when you start doing that, then I know that you don't know your bed capacity. There are certain things you should have at your fingertips. And when it comes to the issue of staffing, you see, it's about policies that are made and how it impacts on us. Year in, year out, we see nurses, like we said, who are trained out from the universities, from the NMTCs, from the other health training institutions, and not just in the public sector, but also from the private sector. So the numbers are usually huge. You would expect that we should just get them all employed, isn't it? Once they be trained, they must be employed. And of course, money was spent in terms of training them, so they should be employed to mitigate the staffing challenges we may have. But you realize that there are consistent delays in their employment, all because of the issue of getting financial clearance. And that is where we come in as a union to advocate. But it all comes down to the requirement for proper needs assessment. We must know each year, year in, year out, the number of the caliber of nurses and midwives that we need, or all the other health professionals. And like Evelyn said, it is not that it is not there, it is there. The data is there. But the politics that has meddled in the whole thing does not allow the right thing to be done, because you give an institution a quota, but every time that quota is not respected, they go beyond it. Then you train all of them, they come out. That currently there's no vacancy for the enrolled nurses, the community health nurses, because most of the facilities want the degree nurses, the diploma nurses. You understand? But at the end of the day, once they are trained, they will still have to be posted somewhere to work. So it's about time that as a country, we know exactly what we need and do what we need to do in terms of the training. If indeed, like Evan said, some of them will travel outside. Majority will do it on their own. But if you look at where government is now coming in, other countries need nurses and midwives. They facilitate, the government will facilitate it. And then they move, like we have seen with the Barbados nurses. You understand? If that is the intention of government, then it should not be in the ad hoc way that we are seeing it. There must be proper plans in place. We must set targets and know that probably in the next few years, by this year, we are actually going into exploitation of nurses and go on to sign whatever bilateral agreements we want with these other countries and understand that this is the caliber of nurses they also want. Because the truth is that no nation will come to Ghana and come and recruit enrolled nurses and certificate community health nurses. Not even sometimes diploma nurses. They want the degree nurses, and not just degree nurses, but those who have added on specialties. So they want cardiac nurses, they want neurology, neuro nurses, they want palliative care nurses. You know, that kind of expertise, that is what they want. So when they come, they want the cream of those in our profession. So then you ask yourself, are we on the right path in terms of the whole policy of our own education? But we as a union, the best we can do is advocate, to lobby for government to do the right thing. We don't have that power to take that ultimate decision, but we can do the necessary research, have the numbers, and then be able to speak to those numbers with government and say, this is how the trend is, but we cannot continue this way. We need to change. We need to do things this way or that way, and that is what will bring us the kind of value that we want. But in addition to that, you see, the challenges of us as nurses and midwives, we know, apart from the staffing and all the education that comes with it, we have the workplace hazards. We have the work hazards. In our jurisdiction in Ghana, technological advance is not ripe, and therefore look at the beds on which we nurse our patients, the trolleys that we push, all the things that we do. It needs what? Physical effort. At the end of the day, a lot of back injuries. You, after working for so many years, by the time you retire, your body has turned another way, isn't it? And you're told probably you did not use the right body mechanics to do your lifting, to do your whatever. But in other jurisdictions, there are no lift policies where nurses don't lift, because the bed should be in such a way that once you adjust it, you should be able to lift the patient. You know, but we don't have those equipments here. So those are the work hazards that we have. Then within our setting also, one other challenge we see is bullying and harassment. And this one, permit me to say it. Media people, this one is not for you. You see, sometimes we have our own senior colleagues who use the system to bully the young ones, and it does not augur well for us. You see, you never get to understand until you become a patient yourself, and then when you are in that bed and things are not going right, then you see that maybe I could have done more than I did. You see, we need to mentor our young ones. But let me say that the young ones must also allow themselves to be mentored. Some of them think they know too much. They know it already. They have reached there. Was maybe an enrolled nurse, now a degree holder, or started as a diploma, now has a master's. You know it all. But never think that you know it all. If you work with that ideology, you will never know. And you will never rise. Because there's always room for improvement. And every day, every minute is an opportunity for you to learn. And therefore, you must avail yourself to learn. It's about how you go about it. But that's why it's two ways. How our senior colleagues handle us, and how the younger ones also push themselves. Okay? But sometimes the bullying is more about, for one reason or the other, you are not in my good books. Some personal issues that trigger those kind of things, and therefore you are put on a certain schedule that will make life unbearable for you, or sometimes you are recommended for transfers and all those things. Those things do not help. There are issues of some violence that also occurs at the workplace, and we see that from patient relatives, and sometimes we see that from also health colleagues, especially the doctors that we work hand in hand with, and that must also stop. You understand? Periodically, I'm told from the Office of the Director Nursing and Midwifery Services, Ghana Health Service, the annual assessment or questionnaires that come for managers to fill. There's a portion like that you also need to record. There are events that occur at the clinical area, and don't think that they are just trivial issues. They come, you gloss over it, they go work continuous. No, they also provide requisite data that can allow us to inform policies surrounding the work environment and how we deal with each other at the workplace. So, in addition, these are some of the things. But in all of it, if you ask me, the role that the union plays is advocacy, because we don't yield the power to change the policies, but we yield the power to have the information to influence the policies. You understand? So that is where we have to talk and inform those that are in the positions to write the policies to do it right.
Just to add another thing, as we are talking about the challenges with us being people who are going to nurse the world to help, I think that one key thing we should think about is the mental health of the nurse and midwife. It is very important, especially in this COVID-19 season. And it's always been the case. My background is not mental health nursing, though. But I know that nurses and midwives work so hard, sometimes under very difficult and challenging situations. They are faced with issues that sometimes they have no one to speak to about it. There isn't that space where the nurse or midwife could sit, reflect, talk to somebody, sometimes even get some psychological help. I have had the opportunity of conducting some research and interviewing people who have been posted to places where they never knew about, they couldn't speak the language of the people there, they grew up in different settings, and suddenly they find themselves in such environments. And the psychological and mental torture that they go through for a period before they get adjusted to that situation, sometimes we cannot even imagine. So I think that if we can nurse the world to help, we should start with ourselves. Because I think that with a healthy mind and a healthy body, you stand in a better position to nurse somebody else. If we come and we have emotional issues, psychological issues, that stem from our work, lack of equipment to work with, like the president said, bad working environment, poor relationship with the people we are working with, coupled with maybe low salaries, that doesn't help meet our needs. The nurse, I'm not holding brief for them, but some of these things can position the nurse wrongly, so that the least, I don't want to say provocation, but it sort of reduces their ability to give out their best. So I think that that area of mental health or psychological well-being of the nurse and the midwife is another area we should look at, and provide spaces for them to be able to talk and discuss some of the challenges that they go through.
Thanks, Evelyn. You see, we've always known that there's a part of us that is emotional, psychological, isn't it? That adds on and makes us healthy. But I never knew it, or it was not that tangible until this COVID era, when a lot of nurses were getting infected and they had to quarantine themselves, they had to go through some isolation and all that. And the calls kept coming. The calls kept coming. We need that kind of, we need help. We need somebody to talk to, you understand? And all that. So, if you remember, we organized a Facebook Live program, and the objective was to give psychological support to our nurses and midwives, to let them understand how they can go through what they were going through. And we were lucky to have a psychologist, a clinical psychologist with us, and she has done so well in terms of, sometimes I just send her the telephone numbers of some of these nurses, and then she gets in touch with them, stays for long hours on the phone, talking to them, encouraging them, and then they are okay. So we must understand that although the work environment may not provide that space, okay, as when it comes to your union, we can do something for you. That's why you have your district executives, you have your regional executives before national comes in. Make use of them, because through them you can get to the right people to share your problems with. And it's also important that the in charges themselves, ward in charges, nurse managers, also avail themselves to make it easier or very easy for their subordinates to come to them and talk to them about some of this. Because there are times that the solution is just there. It is just there where you are. You just need somebody in that work environment to provide that solution for you. And the nurse manager may be the right person. So with the nurse managers, let us also create that environment for our people or our nurses and midwives to also readily come to us.
One question bothers me. Our systems or our facilities, are they work hard for all these things? Do we have psychologists at our facilities where we work? So in case something happens, do we have people who could stand up and then say, I'm counseling this person? Most of the times our nurse managers will stand up to the task. But then do they have the capacity, the needed capacity? Some of them might have done, I'm basically talking about the professional counseling. Don't you think we have to push for this? I think that question goes to Sister.
At the classroom and in the clinical areas. Because per ATI policy, every institution, health training institution is supposed to have a counseling unit. But you go to most of the school, and I would say even my school, even though we have the counselors there, even the infrastructure to get them a space so that students will go to them is a problem. You come and our sitting arrangement there and whatever, there's no privacy. So the students will decide to go with the problem. And at times, when the numbers were small, we were able to identify all students and we get to know them better. So if some people have problems, you are able to address them. Now the number is large. So at times they go unnoticed until they get to the final year. Then you see some people surfacing with issues that not necessarily psychological, but maybe financial or something. And so it's a challenge even in the classroom. And on the work too, the same thing. But like we are saying, if we are talking of specialty, then we should also have people that will opt for professional guidance. That is the way forward, or that is where they are heading towards. Like we have the clinical psychologist. Because at times, most of the time, students will be following you, or those who have completed. Sister, I want to discuss with you my career. I don't know what to do next or what I do. But if there are offices or there are places where they can access those things, then they will not have issue. So some of them will end up going into a specialty area that they don't have interest. But recently somebody approached me and I said, this is what you do. When you complete school and you are doing your rotation, that is the time you should identify where your interest is. So that by the time that you finish, you know that, okay, from here, if I go and do degree and I want to do my postgraduate, I want to be an anesthetist, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be that. So you don't go wasting your time, because the moment you choose the specialty area you are not interested in, you will not be able to render quality healthcare. Because you yourself, you don't have the interest in what you are doing. And because you don't have knowledge, you go into it before you realize that, I don't belong here. I remember your mate, Brown. They had a mate who came and was doing nursing. When you give anatomy, they draw in superb description. So we have to cancel him. And then later he left. In fact, he stopped school. I met him one day and he's now optometrist. So you can see he was at the wrong place. Not that he's not intelligent. If you look at him, you will see that this gentleman can get far. But he finds himself at the wrong place. So that is what is happening with our postgraduates or our specialty areas. People don't know what goes on there, but they just want to while away time, and so they find themselves doing certain courses, and then it becomes a problem for them themselves, and people see them to be not up to the task. But maybe when they are put at a better place, they might have functioned perfectly. So it's a challenge. The entering into a facility, whether the person is a female, or most of the time the females outnumber the males in the profession. So any female they meet is a nurse. Then every male is a doctor. And so that is what they know there. We need to educate the public, or we need to make them aware. Now, going forward, we need to work on our attitude. Because if our attitudes are right, it will be able to differentiate us from any other person that they are talking about.
But there's something else that's coming with higher education. Critical thinking, clinical judgment skill, effective communication, ability to write. We have stories. Why aren't our stories out there? Sometimes it's because we don't know how to communicate them. Okay, so the higher you go, the skills may be the same, but even how you go about giving the injection may be different. How your mind works, because at the degree level, it's not only about nursing. There are other things that we bring in that exposes the nurse. So I think that we should work towards a situation where we'll have entry level as graduate nurses. Not to say that the certificate or the diploma nurses are not working. That is not what I'm saying at all. Because many years ago we had the KYRs. They worked. We have certificates and the SRS. They worked, they delivered. But looking at how the world is changing and the way things are going, I think that we should work towards that point. So that when we stand and we are talking with doctors, pharmacists, they are at a certain level and we can also rub shoulders with them because we don't feel intimidated. So I think that we should work on.
In terms of skills acquisition, it may be the same because we are giving it just the you give. But the issue is that what is the rationale behind what you are doing? What are the physiologies, the pharmacodynamic of the drug, the pharmaco whatever, kinetic? You are looking at all those things. So when you are doing the thing, you know actually what you are aiming at. Now, when it comes to the certificate again, like Doctor was saying, you go to the higher level and you are looking at evidence-based practice. I don't know if lower level you will be taught those things for you to apply. You see that as you go higher, the nurse is made to know that you have a role to play in research, and so you can be a researcher and you can also be a user of the research findings. And that is where the evidence-based practice comes in. So you don't stay at the lower level to get to know all these things until you go higher, then you get to know. So you need to educate yourself. You need to. We are talking of the cultural diversity. I made mention of the transcultural theory. So there's a theory behind whatever you do. As you go higher, you get to know, oh, so this thing that we do, this is the theory defining this behavior or this attitude. All these things, you learn it as you go higher. So you need not to stay down there. You need to go up. For instance, my sister is saying, is a research analyst. It's a statistician. How many nurses are statisticians?
We are afraid of lies.
That's it. So we shouldn't be satisfied with where we are. We should learn about the mother who is nurturing us, and learn from us and from her. And then we'll know that we need to go higher.
As for politics and the politicians, they can do their politics, isn't it? Yes. We are nurses and midwives, and I'm the president because nurses and midwives gave me the mandate. So I must tell you, I'm not afraid to step on the toes of the politicians. The interest of our nurses and midwives is what is paramount to me. We signed a collective agreement in April 2016. That agreement was never implemented. Are we not aware that at your facility, whatever you think you are entitled to, you go ask for it, they tell you there's no money? Yes. The song has been, there's no money, there's no money. 4 years on, we are at the negotiation table and they are singing the same song. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You see, it doesn't matter the elections is coming on in December. At the last meeting we had on 3rd September, somewhere in June, before that 3rd September, we had 2 series of meetings, continuous, 3rd and 4th. And we made certain proposals. And in fact, the process started way back in July 2019. And somewhere in February, when we're up to continue, COVID came and stalled everything. So we managed to have 2 meetings in June, and the government side was supposed to come back and give us responses on the monetary things that we asked for. They needed to take mandate from the Ministry of Finance. On 10 September when we met, all the things we asked for, not even one got any response. So yesterday at the Greater Accra Land, I asked the nurses there, is it too much to ask for uniform allowance? Is it too much to ask for rent allowance? Is it too much to ask for professional development allowance? So if it is not too much, then we ourselves, we know that it's something that we deserve and we must be given. We have been cheated on for too long. For just too long. So whether it is elections coming or elections not coming, the point is that we are in a process. And in good faith, both sides, our side and the government side, must be able to come to some conclusions. For the fact that the collective agreement signed in 2016 was never implemented, we don't want to get up every day and go to our facility heads asking for this, asking for that, and we are told there's no money. Because in fact, the money they need to run the services at the facility, they don't even have enough. Am I lying? They don't have enough, so they tell you there's no money. However, where there's the few ones who also produce enough IGF, they also use it for other things, other than paying nurses and midwives what is due them. Now we are saying we must have certain things that will be paid directly through the controller system. We should see it on our payroll. You understand? Government must understand that nurses contribute a lot in maintaining the health system that we have. By our sheer numbers, we are holding the health system. And that the sheer numbers should not be used against us when it comes to demanding for certain things. Not at all. If they appreciate us and they appreciate what we do and what we contribute in terms of nursing Ghanaians to health, then we are expecting they reconsider. So in that 3rd September meeting, we gave the government side 2 weeks. 2 weeks will lapse on 17th September. They must come back and let us know what we need to do. Otherwise, after 17th September, we ourselves will do everything that we deem possible to safeguard our economic interests.
For the profession that we have chosen, the client is always right, whether you like it or not. So we just have to conscientize ourselves, and we just have to buy into that idea that whatever be the case, the client is always right. And like I said in the beginning, the clients are the evaluators of the services that we are rendering. And so when they come and you maltreat them, or when they come and then you just handle them anyhow, then it means that they will go and they will send that message out there. So please, if you don't know and you care to know, for today, the opportunity that you have been given is that the client is always right. The client. If, let's say, a particular client used to come to your facility and misbehave, the best thing is to report to your ward in charge or the nurse manager of the facility. Then they call the person and address the issue. But you don't take the law into your hands and then the person insults you, insult the person back. Or the person say nasty things to you and then you also say it. When the two of you are standing there, you have opted to be trained to become a nurse and you don't have what it takes to take care of the client, then you don't belong. Then you must find your level. You don't belong. So please, we should all know that our client is always right and we should treat them with some dignity.
And we can make it the best if we all put our hands to the plan and work towards it. So God bless you, God help you in your efforts, and let's make nursing shine as it should be. Thank you very much.
Ourselves to discuss issues pertaining to the work that we do. So all I want to say is that when it comes to the union, you cannot have a better professional union or trade union to belong to than the GRNMA. Let's all work together. Be the advocates for the union. Talk about it, the goodness in the union. And stop our brothers and sisters who are trying or veering away so that we can all work together and build a better GRNMA than what we came to meet. God bless us all.
Yeah, Patrick, drink now,